The human mind was made for duality. It's a convenient mechanism. It's an evolutionary thing. So, lion, bad, from a point of view of being eaten anyway. And rabbit, good, from the point of view of eating it. And we have danger and safety. So, a tornado is dangerous, nice balmy day is safe. These are just convenient categories. They're kind of crude categories. There really is no good and bad, there's just shades of grey, obviously, but good and bad is one we like to use. And in fact, an even better one that we like to use is good and evil. Because the people who talk about good and evil generally want to portray themselves as being good and everybody else as being evil. So that's a useful one. It's a way to establish some power for yourself. You know, the Inquisition did that, and any kind of ideology will do that. We are right and everybody else is wrong. So these rough categorizations are kind of useful, but they're also quite harmful as well, because they create this black and white scenario. Everybody that does something is okay, other people who don't do that something are not okay. Anyway, this is the way our mind works. It's just a binary mechanism to very quickly establish whether something is useful for us or harmful, because that's the only purpose it serves. And we dream up elaborations of that just to serve ourselves even more. I'm righteous or whatever, everybody else is a sinner. You know, all that kind of stuff. It's just a power mechanism. The people who, when we think those things, we put everybody else into a position of less power and ourselves into a position of greater power. I mean, in the mundane world, we use opposites all the time. Hard, soft, fast, slow, hot, cold. Yeah, just convenient categories. Nothing more than that. So, let's get to the real topic of this podcast, which is the most profound dualism, which is the dualism of subject and object. Now, if you haven't come across this terminology before, basically the subject is the thing or person that experiences. The object is the thing experienced. So if I look at a tree, the tree is the object. And I am the experiencer of that object. Yeah, I can see it's green, that it's got flowers on it, and yeah, whatever. This habit of creating dualities from mundane things has rippled all the way through to the most profound topics, like subject and object. And the whole thing isn't helped really by the grammar. We have the subject-oriented grammar. I, we, me, you, they, referring to people as though they are things, as though the experiences, or the people experiencing, are things in the same way as a tree or an apple is a thing. So, when we experience, we assume a subject, the person experiencing, and we assume an object, the thing experienced. And so, this leads to a fairly fundamental dualism, because then we have this notion of, well, what am I? What am I as the experiencer? You know, we might be satisfied with the idea that an apple is a lump of matter, although it's a fairly stupid thing to be satisfied with, because we don't even know what fucking matter is. There's a whole digression on its own. These days, matter is thought of in terms of information, but I won't go there. But in any case, most of us are fairly happy that a table is a table and a chair is a chair and an apple is an apple. But we're not all that happy with the idea of knowing what we are. Oh, what am I? And in fact, that question, that wholly meaningless question, what am I? It's meaningless for reasons I'll get to in a moment. Anyway, this most profound duality, subject-object, the thing that is experiencing and the thing that is experienced, is commented upon by numerous philosophers, so I'll quote a few, and actually a Zen quotation as well. So Nietzsche has some really good things to say about it. So I'll read this quote out. It's from from Beyond Good and Evil. If I analyze the process expressed by the proposition I think, well, there's a loaded statement. I think. What is this mysterious I? If I analyze the process expressed by the proposition I think, I get a series of audacious assertions that would be difficult, if not impossible, to prove. For example, that I am the one who is thinking. This is what we all think. Oh, I was thinking about you yesterday. I was thinking about our holiday, whatever. There's a belief that the thinking needs an I for it to happen. So, for example, that I am the one who is thinking, that there has to be a something doing the thinking, that thinking is an activity and an effect on the part of a being who is thought of as a cause, that an I exists, and finally, that we by now understand clearly what is designated as thinking, that I know what thinking is. So clearly, Nietzsche there is questioning the whole notion of this thing called I. Do we need an I to think? Or is there just thinking? There's a clue to the conclusion in all of this. I could spend half an hour on that. It's such a profound piece. He just drops it in. It's almost coincidental in one of his aphorisms in Beyond Good and Evil. Anyway, come to Spinoza, who says something kind of similar, although Spinoza's language is a bit more obtuse. Hence, the Ethics is one of the most difficult works to understand. Spinoza says, in the same way it is proved that in the mind there is no absolute faculty of understanding, desiring, loving, etc. This is from the Ethics. For anybody interested, it's Proposition 48 in Part 2. So he's saying that there is no faculty in there for understanding or desiring or loving. There's no one at home. There isn't a little homunculus in there. There isn't a little I that's doing all this stuff. Hence it follows that these and similar faculties are either entirely fictitious or nothing more than metaphysical entities or universals, which we are wont to form from particulars. So we have the particulars, see a tree, oh, then you see a dog, and you start saying, oh, I see the tree, I see, and you believe in this I, or you start to believe that you have some faculty for understanding. Spinoza's just saying, no, there are just the particulars. There's a dog, there's a tree. Let me get on to the final one of these, the Zen quotation, which I've used before actually somewhere in some podcast about 1 million years ago. This is from Seizing of Notions, which is just a wonderful document. And there's Emin, who is the student, and there's the master, whose name I can't remember. Anyway, Emin suddenly rose and asked, what is called the mind, and how is the mind pacified? The master answered, you should not assume a mind, then there is no need to pacify it. That is called pacifying the mind. In other words, you don't have a mind to pacify. You have various processes taking place, but there is no mind as such, or as Spinoza would say, there is no faculty of understanding, desiring, or loving. They're the same kind of statements. So, where does all of this lead? Well, it leads to the fact that this duality of subject and object is wholly fallacious, and it's just really a product of our language. So when we say something like, I see a tree, we use the word I to denote that there's a little man inside or woman inside that's doing it, doing the looking. And tree to give an idea of some external object. There is no subject and there is no object. These are fictions. There is only experience. And that's the key to the whole thing. There's only one true statement you can make in the whole of this life. And that is that there is experience. Not that I experience. We don't know what the fuck the I thing is. Not you experience, we experience. There is experience. Experience is the thing. So instead of saying, oh, look at that tree, you can just say, there is a tree. Or, I saw a dog, you can just say, there was a dog. The I is extra, as they would say in Zen. The only true statement you can make is that there is experience. Get those tattooed on your forehead. Those 3 words, there is experience. There's no need to have a subject that is experiencing and an object that is experienced. You just create a duality, and the duality is really created out of our crude evolutionary mechanism of assigning things to one extreme or the other, good, bad, hot, cold, and all those things. And now we've used that same mechanism to think about our existential experience. And we say, oh, I tasted that apple. No, you can just say, there was, or there is, the taste of an apple, or the flavor of an apple. You don't need the thing that's doing the tasting and the thing that is tasted. It's a very subtle kind of twist, but you need to just, it's just a useful little thing actually, just to say to yourself, now and then, because it will remind you. When you're saying, oh, I really enjoyed that, you can say, oh, there was enjoyment. The enjoyment doesn't need someone to enjoy it, and it doesn't need an object to be enjoyed. There was just enjoyment. End of story. And with that simple little twist, you undo the most vicious of all knots that has plagued human beings for centuries. Now, anyone interested, where does this lead? Well, it leads to what years ago they would have called idealism. That really all there is mind. There isn't a concrete thing that's experienced and a kind of metaphysical thing that experiences. There's just mind. Idealism. George Berkeley, Kant, some modern authors, Douglas Hoffman, who, by the way, is a psychologist and has written an excellent book called The Case Against Reality. So this is where this is leading. The fact that everything is mind. If you're interested in idealism or whatever, then jump onto my Patreon channel, because I'm very soon starting a major push on Kant. Kant really is the Albert Einstein of all of this. People use Kant's ideas and they don't attribute them to him, but ultimately almost all the ideas in this area come from Kant. So I'll be studying Kant and some modern authors and what have you. So if you're interested in idealism, then there'll be a fairly long-running series on it on the Patreon channel. There's a link below. Anyway, now for my weird little commercial at the end.